So the end of the ATF's amnesty period for pistol braces happens in just 11 days. In this video, we're going to be discussing where we currently are with the efforts to halt this new rule on pistol braces before that May 31st deadline, and also some recent statements that were made by the ATF in regards to how you are still violating the rule even if you remove the brace but you don't destroy it. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think the ATF's pistol brace rule is clearly unconstitutional, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee has some of the best coffee out on the market, and they are huge Second Amendment supporters. If you buy one of their dedicated roasts for FBC or GOA, some of those proceeds go directly to those organizations so they can file lawsuits like the one we're going to talk about here in this video. So go check out Blackout Coffee using the link down below, and if you use the code ARMSCHOLAR, you can get 10% off of your order. Now, you may remember from the last time we talked about the pistol brace rule on the channel, I broke down the recent federal district court ruling in Texas, which denied a request to place a halt on the rule. The ATF recently received a slight win in the lawsuit Mock v Garland. In that case, a federal district court judge, Reed O'Connor, denied a preliminary injunction, but he included some language indicating that he would ultimately still maybe strike down this rule in its entirety, maybe on something like a motion for summary judgment, but he needed more evidence and more support before he made that type of determination. In that decision, Judge Reed O'Connor stated that this court holds that plaintiffs have not carried their burden to demonstrate their substantial likelihood of success on the merits of any of their claims, and therefore denies plaintiffs' motion for preliminary injunctive relief, or in the alternative, for postponement of the final rule's effective date. From that opinion, one of the main sticking points from what it appeared the judge found issue with was a lack of history and evidence that was presented in the case at this moment. To me, the opinion reads as if the judge maybe wants more arguments, more evidence before he ultimately strikes down the rule. However, there was some other concerning language also in the order that the ATF then tried to use in other lawsuits, including the FRAC lawsuit and the GOA lawsuit. Some of the concerning language that I'm referencing includes things like the judge stating that rules explaining when a brace or stabilizer redesigns a firearm or remakes a firearm sufficiently to a short-barreled rifle are therefore permissible. What the final rule purports to do is identify the criteria by which enforcers, in their application of the statute, will make that determination. It does not, as plaintiffs suggest, rewrite the definition itself. In short, it does not appear that the final rule so clearly contradicts the statutory definition of rifle that preliminary injunctive relief is in order. There, Judge Reed O'Connor is stating that he believes what the ATF did in the pistol brace rule is likely within the ATF's statutory authority. After that decision, FBC did file an appeal up to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they had to do that because that injunction was denied by the district court. Currently, FBC is trying to get the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals to also grant an injunction pending the appeal. What this means is that they want the Fifth Circuit to issue their own injunction and halt the rule from going into full effect at least until the appeal is finished at the Fifth Circuit level. In the motion, FBC states that to prevent these immediate and irreparable harms to appellants ask this court to enjoin pending appeal the agency's enforcement of the final rule and to rule by May 24th to allow millions of gun owners 1 calendar week to meet the agency's requirements for compliance with the final rule if not enjoined. They then argue that there will be no harm suffered to the ATF if the rule is put on hold, but in contrast, significant harms will occur to businesses and individuals pretty much nationwide who are currently in possession of these braced pistols. FPC states in their motion that granting an injunction pending the appeal serves the public's interest by preserving the status quo long enough for appellants to obtain a meaningful decision on the merits before either going out of business or having to destroy their constitutionally protected pistols. The public interest also is served by ensuring due observance of all the constitutional guarantees and the agency's faithful adherence to its statutory mandate. In contrast, the agencies will suffer no harm if forced to maintain the decade-long status quo on what constitutes a rifle. The agency's express approval of that status quo for nearly a decade rebuts any imminent harm, as does the final rule's 120-day delay in enforcement against individual owners. There is no urgency demanding the final rule apply prior to completion of the judicial review. They also push for a broad injunction instead of a limited injunction, which we've seen some courts issue on other ATF's rules, like the rules on frames and receivers. In the motion, they state that in order for relief to be effective in this case, the injunction pending appeal must pause the final rule in its entirety, not merely as to the named parties in this case. In this case, an injunction limited to maximum defense and not extending to its customers and any intermediaries legally necessary to process sales would afford no relief at all. If the injunction excludes licensed dealers, retailers, wholesalers, and other third parties, there is no one who could legally accept or retransfer such items free of the heightened NFA restrictions imposed by the final rule. An effective injunction pending appeal thus needs to cover all persons and businesses in the purchase chain from manufacturer to final purchaser, including all FFLs in between. Likewise, with the individual appellant and other individual customers, any limitation on the injunction that left a break in the required chain of sale would make it impossible to purchase a braced pistol. And if the injunction excluded other individuals, family members would remain subject to constructive possession charges, even if appellants themselves were temporarily protected. FBC's many members around the country face similar risks and restrictions. Accordingly, this court should enjoin the final rule in its entirety pending appeal. So right now there's an emergency request up before the Fifth Circuit where FBC is asking this court to issue an injunction on the entire pistol brace rule for all people, at least right now, while this is going through the appeal. And they're requesting that the Fifth Circuit issue that ruling before May 24th. The hope is that the Fifth Circuit will grant that injunction pending the appeal. But if they don't issue that injunction on May 24th, then we will have about a week period of time where we will know that yes, the Fifth Circuit denied that, and now we would look to other cases, maybe like the FRAC lawsuit up in North Dakota, or the other case, GOA in Texas lawsuit that's in a federal district court also in Texas. We would look to those to maybe issue an injunction, but right now we should also be focusing on the Fifth Circuit. But there is even more concerning things that are happening right now in regards to the pistol brace rule that we need to keep our eyes on, and I also wanted to bring to your attention. And that is the ATF's recent push once again on Twitter and other social media sites saying that someone would not be in compliance with the final rule if they simply just remove the brace from the pistol. In their statements, they said that to be in compliance, you would need to remove the short barrel and attach a longer rifle barrel, permanently remove and dispose of the brace, or turn it in, or destroy it, or essentially register it by May 31st. The thing I want to emphasize is the ATF is once again shifting their position, and they're saying just removing a brace is not enough. They're now saying that removing and disposing the brace is what is needed to be in compliance with the final rule. This is what we first assumed when we read through the final rule, but then the ATF made statements to the contrary, and then you also had the director of the ATF, Dettelbach, who made multiple statements to the contrary. In fact, in front of Congress, under oath, Director Dettelbach said that
there also can be detachment. So in other words, we don't count, that's not for us to regulate. If somebody we wrote the rule to make it easy to comply with. If somebody just at their home detaches the weapon from the brace and keeps them apart, they do not have to register anything. They can keep the brace, they can keep the business end of the gun.
But now, to no one's surprise, the ATF is shifting their position once again and saying, no, you must remove the brace and also destroy it. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because I get asked quite often, almost every day now, what the compliance options would be. What do you need to do? And right now, even the type of stuff which is up in the air would be things like, would you be in compliance if you removed the brace from the pistol and still maintain that brace and didn't destroy it? Right now, the ATF has made statements on both sides saying all you need to do is remove it. And then recently they said, no, you need to remove it and destroy it. So there's a lot of conflicting information out there, even from the ATF. And I think that's even more support of why we need a court like the Fifth Circuit to step in and halt this rule until the constitutionality of the rule can ultimately be decided. So that is where the pistol brace issue currently stands. FBC is trying to get an emergency injunction from the Fifth Circuit by May 24th at the latest. And then you have the ATF shifting their position once again on compliance options. Make sure you stay tuned to the channel, subscribe to the channel, because this issue is likely going to be very dynamic over the next couple of weeks, over the next 11 days. If I get any more information, if anything else changes, I will let you guys know immediately. But as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.